I'm Cole Halliburton, and this is my final presentation for IDS-401 Global Society, Professor Jennifer Moore. So, my final presentation, the global issue that I chose to tackle is radical Islam. Islam is one of the fastest growing religions and was founded on true monotheistic principles. Islam, in my opinion, is a peaceful religion, but is being polluted by radicals who are hell bent on starting a caliphate and taking turning back the clock and taking the Quran verses out of context. I chose this issue because I truly believe that this current conflict with Islamic fascism, it will be the fight that the world takes on until the end of time. I do not think radical Islam can be defeated. I just think we can impede its progress. In my opinion, this war will be eventually affect everybody. It'll come to the front doorsteps of everybody as lone wolves will continue to be their actions will be continue to be spawned by radical Islam and its ideas. The significance of this conflict cannot be overstated. This conflict has become religious and political. Groups like Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, or otherwise known as ISIS, they're slaughtering Christians by the thousands, and you have countries like Jordan and the United Arab Emirates who are forming alliances to combat these groups. Soon more religions will be dragged into the fight, and more countries will follow Jordan's lead and form these alliances to fight this conflict. Some questions I want to know. What I want to know is what is the way forward? What is the global answer to combating radical groups like ISIS, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab? And then what are Middle Eastern countries like the United Arab Emirates and Jordan and Saudi Arabia, what are they going to contribute to this fight? So my presentation will be presented utilizing three disciplines. Those disciplines being political science, psychology, and sociology. Political pressure must be applied by moderate Muslim countries. ISIS is using scare tactics to affect the masses and trying to deter countries from fighting their so-called established caliphate. The tactics used by this same group are changing the social scenes in the Middle East, and soon, if it's left unchecked, it will be a permanent change. What is the individual's role in this war? The individual's role is to take a side and have a voice. Soon we'll not have the ability to turn our heads and look away. Soon this fight will be on the individual's doorstep. It will be in places like Austin, Texas, and Omaha, Nebraska, and Sacramento, California. In my opinion, you either support radical Islam or you don't. If you do not and you cannot fight it, then have the voice to stand up and get your politicians involved in order to combat radical Islam. The nation's role, what is the nation's role? The nation's role is to support our allies and protect our people to the best of our abilities. When our allies make a strategic move to fight terrorism, we must stand with them in support. Words and actions are two different things. Currently, our nation as a whole condemns the actions of ISIS. However, we need a long-term plan to fight global terrorism. We can no longer invade countries in the name of global war on terrorism. Global war on terrorism is now being used as it's just a saying now, and it's given us justification as a country to invade countries, kill their leaders, disband their military, and try to impose democracy. And we've learned our lesson. That is not going to work in the Middle East. That type of failure can't be tolerated anymore by our nation's leaders or its people. The regions affected most today have already been subject to political strife and bloodshed for years. So what is the role of the global community? The global community is their role is to form alliances similar to those spoken of previously: Jordan, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and they have to support each other in some sort of bipartisan type way. Muslim countries should recognize the fact that groups like ISIS are opposite of moderate Islam. Whether it be Sunni or Shia, the countries must unite. Bottom line is terrorism, and its effects are intended for governments, but all too often the effects are taken out on innocent people. So the political concerns for the United States. The president has proposed a 3-year plan to fund our military commitment against ISIS overseas. The 3-year plan is just the beginning. Obviously, it'll be extended to the next president in 2016, and it's for him or her to implement and keep that going as well. For the country of Iraq and Syria and others facing a caliphate takeover, they must implement policy of the people that the people can support. The local populace is easily influenced due to the dissatisfaction of current governments, like you see today in Iraq and Syria. The problems with the issue for America is the lack of support by the American people. When an American sees another American beheaded on TV in such a gruesome manner, they tend to get either mad or they cringe in fear. And when they cringe in fear, they get this isolationist type mentality. Benefits and challenges of a global community are the alliances that are being formed. No longer can America be the tip of the spear. We need some Middle Eastern, some moderate Muslim, some Arab countries, possibly even some Persian countries to step up and fight this fight. The benefit to fighting radical Islam is to rid the world, or at least impede the progress of such a backwards and unforgiving idea of radical Islam. The challenges will, of course, be the length of the fight and the alliances with the local populace. The local populace has to be won over, and that cannot be overstated. These Islamic groups are taking over. They're taking over the population, the indigenous population. They're finding that young 20-something male that has nothing else to do because his government won't support him, has nothing else to do but become a terrorist and to join their group and to live by their ideology. Communication is also on the radical Islam side at the moment. In the past year, news outlets have reported on ISIS more than any other story that I have seen. They're perpetuating the idea of the caliphate by simply just showing this coverage. They're also exploiting the biased reporting on lack of government victories. You always see government victories, you always see tangible evidence of it, but you never hear about government victories in the news. Social networking is against the moderates as well as we fight this war. Groups like ISIS have mastered the internet and know the military-age males are growing up in the internet age. They know the internet. They know what is watched and what is not watched. They know what is popular and what is not popular. They know how to manipulate sites like Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. Transparency is the best method of communication. Identify and show true progress in the result of this conflict. Don't communicate to us that the U.S. and Jordan have combined for 400 air sorties and completed 400 missions, dropped bombs on 400 targets. Show us tangible evidence in the destruction and the deaths of ISIS fighters. We need to see who and what we are fighting. Technology can address this issue to an extent. From a military perspective, drones and other stealth-type technology can be effective. Although the loss of innocence are normally correlate with drone strikes always end up with dead enemy. More than anything, though, we need real life players in this fight. We need special operations type soldiers from all different kinds of countries in this alliance to be on the ground. We need them integrated, infiltrated, and we need them calling out targets on the ground. We need countries to show and advertise a real commitment and a real alliance. Technology is also against us in this fight. ISIS clearly has the upper hand in the social networking, news outlets and news coverage, and propaganda and scare tactics. We can use all the technology and weaponry we want, but again, it's boots on the ground, or they're going to prevail in this fight. Again, politically, we must unite and form alliances to combat terrorism. The United States can no longer take the fight to the enemy and be the lead in this fight. This has to be a moderate Muslim country lead in this fight. Otherwise, the United States, we're just going to get our name drug around, and we're going to continue, and we're going to perpetuate the bad reputation we have in the Middle East already. Muslim countries must take the lead to show Muslim moderates that actions against ISIS and Boko Haram are just. The psychological effect on the people around the world is being perpetuated by media sources, to include social media and YouTube. Viewers are scared for their life. They're scarred for life with horrific images that they've seen at the hands of radical Islam. For example, beheadings and burning a man in a cage. The cultural scene is affected by changes in the fight against those who believe in an extreme version of Sharia law. Other religions are being systematically wiped out in countries like Iraq and Syria. Some are choosing conversion as opposed to death, converting religions as opposed to death. If left unchecked, the social landscape of the Middle East will look different. This global issue of radical Islam, it must be addressed. Thank you.